It's like 1:30 and I haven't written anything. I'm gonna try and buckle down, play some like mentally like stimulating music, because I don't know, I just can't seem to concentrate right now, but I need to in order to get my stuff done. I'm in the middle of editing chapter 8. Got some love interest, like relationship development action. I'm still friends right now, but we need to kind of lay the groundwork. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. Got lots of books to read, job applications to send, papers to write, novels to edit, all those kinds of things. So we'll see how things go. Chapter 8 is done. It was actually really fun to kind of edit it. I've been editing it for a few days now, but like I hit a point where things were getting, I don't know, I was just really uninspired by what was happening. And so I basically highlighted a chunk of like my main character and the love interest kind of interacting, and said, okay, this has got to be rewritten, especially because there's like kind of a theme that's been repeated over and over. Well, it's been mostly touched on like twice in the first act by two different people, and this was going to be the third time it was touched on, even though we're into the second act now. And I was like, okay, this is too much. It was not allowing for space for as much like character development that could have been there if I budgeted my space better. So I decided to say, okay, this is all getting rewritten in a way that the same kind of important information will be conveyed, but it's now going to be flipped onto the love interest. So we're going to learn more about him. And so I was able to do that in a really good way, actually. I kind of realized that I am very attached to my narration. I could write a whole story I have written short stories that are just like completely no dialogue at all. While I enjoyed reading those kind of things as well, I don't think I allow myself to kind of go with dialogue to explain things. That was a really horrible way to word it, but basically, I mean, I need to, go hard in the paint for dialogue too, to use it to convey information, to characterize people, rather than like have the main character think of the thing in her head and then say like one sentence that is like really unsatisfactory. Like in my first draft, before I even went through and edited like with my red pen and cleaned things up, I would write like a paragraph and then have her say a sentence of dialogue that was literally like a summary of everything that she had just thought, and then sometimes I would even add a little something after the dialogue. Like it would just be so tedious to read. So I said, you know what, let's cut that. Let's try and balance things a lot better. So this chapter is very dialogue heavy, and it still needs to be cleaned up, especially because I just rewrote like a chunk of the chapter. But I'm really excited to get back to this. Like the past maybe 2 chapters, like I know there's something that needs to be fixed there. But with this chapter, I'm gonna be, I don't know, it's gonna be fun to line edit. It's gonna be fun to just, I don't know, to get my characters' like personalities really, really flowing. I should be kind of going into doing schoolwork, but now that I have this like burst of like motivation to be productive, I'm not gonna try and fight with myself right now. I'm just gonna do the writing that I can, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, we are on to chapter 9. And yeah, I'm gonna have to go through my notes, fix everything in the chapter, and then go back from the beginning and then kind of go with my own eye and do what I've been doing for this entire draft. Draft 2 is basically just world building, although I have been sneaking in some line editing, but it hasn't been anything serious. Mainly world building and plot points. And so this chapter 9 is actually, it was actually supposed to come after the next chapter, which is now chapter 10, but I flip-flopped the two because I realized that it would probably be a better, more enjoyable reading experience for the reader to kind of read what was happening in chapter 9 than chapter 10, have that come faster, and there are many reasons for that, but I'm hoping my choice pays off. So yeah, let me get started on that. Y'all, I think I just wrote like the worst sentence in existence. I said, now that I was through, the totality of the Southern Combine's operations were on display for me to gander at. I don't know what that means, but it's not staying. Like, sometimes when I draft, when I write my first draft, if I hit like a roadblock, I just tell myself, just get it down. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can always edit it into something better, but you can't edit nothing. So that is likely the product of you can't edit nothing, but I don't know if this is better than nothing. It's getting cut. Like, cut. That's what on earth. Chapter 9 is going okay. I had to kind of stop to do a little bit of world building in that I'd created a system of, they're like a mix of military and police in this society, and so they have colors. They all have uniforms that are like checkered pattern, and the color of the checkers that alternate with the black correspond to what unit they are in. So I came up with a few cool things. I might as well just go into it now. I'm like giving bits and pieces of my story without starting from the beginning and like, hey, hello, this is what it's about, or but yeah. So we've got the red, which is the internal combative unit. Basically the country that they're in is very like isolated. Borders are closed, and so they folded the military into police, and the internal combative unit is basically like the police force. If you think of police officers, for example, like in the US, that's kind of what they do. Like police officers / like whoever's like busting into the house to do something, all that comes with. I'm not gonna get into it, but you can just imagine how that unit acts. The yellow unit is more of the administrative unit, all the desk work and everything. And actually in the society, I kind of want to use this to go into the concept of productivity and work. I mean, it's going to be very small, but in the society, basically, if you're not like helping out, if you're not working and putting your abilities to good use, what they deem as good use, like you're at a disadvantage. They're not, you're going to be treated poorly and everything. And so the administrative unit is pretty much for anyone who's like physically incapable of doing some of the other work of the units, but they're still in kind of the military police thing. So yeah, and so they're not treated well, they're looked down on. The green unit is the border protection. So they have, their borders are closed, they have a lot of people, making sure they stay closed, and that one is actually pretty dangerous because strange things are happening at the border. The blue unit is the marine unit. So the country borders a an ocean basically, and they have a long river basically cutting the country in half, as well as, you know, other smaller bodies of water, lakes and such. So those units kind of handle that. The violet unit is the air unit, because the story does contain fairies. So everyone in the violet unit is a fairy, and they take to the skies and everything, keep track of things from up there. The black unit is kind of like a secret undercover unit. They do investigation and informative work, so basically like the FBI, CIA, that kind of stuff. And then finally, the white unit is like a volunteer unit, volunteer army, volunteer police, all that. And they kind of stay within their own communities and run it, but they're still associated with the main military police unit. I call them the Reggie, and then the Regia is like for one person. But yeah, so I'm hoping those kind of definitions will stay the same, but that's what I've come up with for now, and I'm trying to work it back into the story. Probably should have done it earlier, but yeah. I thought I might just do some non-active writing stuff before I kind of turn back to writing and like just end for the night when I end, rather than like finish for the day and then do like a wrap-up thing. I thought I might just do two quick things. Do like a brief summary, just like a brief letting you know about the project I'm working on, because that seems to be a thing people do, and this is my main thing, so might as well kind of talk about it. I call it Snipped. That's its working title. I absolutely hate it and I want to change it, but all the titles that I've thought of for it as a manuscript, I've not been feeling. And I want to do, you know, the thing where like you write the story and then there's a line and there's a little phrase where you're like, oh my gosh, this is the story, and then it's like peas in a box, and then you're reading the book or you're watching the movie and you're like, oh my gosh, it says peas in a box. Like, that would be cool, but it doesn't have to be that. So I think I'm just gonna stick with Snipped, because I don't think if I like give it a different project title, I don't think I'll remember it. So it's Project Snipped. It's 115,000 words at the moment, and I'm trying to keep it under 116,000, because if it gets to that, I will be very annoyed. My goal is to get it under 110,000, but we shall see how that works out. It's an adult fantasy novel. Main character, I'll call her Sarah. It's not her real name, well, it's not her full name, but I'm just gonna refer to her as Sarah. She has a twin brother. It's Sarah and Ruben, and lots of other characters kind of come in, help them, work against them and everything. Sarah does have a love interest in the story, so it's been interesting to work through that while also not going too hard on the romance element. It's funny because like I wrote this and I knew I wanted that romance, and I really think that Sarah and Lars, her love interest, are really great together, but it's like so dry. Like, it's barely, like, their relationship like kind of develops over the story, but it's not until the third act where it's like, oh, actually I like them. And so I kind of have to fix that. That's what I'm working on. But yeah, and so that's why in chapter 9 I was so excited, because I was finally getting like the meat and potatoes of their friendship turned relationship kind of down. So at this moment in time, I don't think either of them have romantic feelings for each other, or they don't know that they do yet. But I'm really laying the foundation that I needed to, because Lars is a very important character to the story, like even outside the romance, and he needs to be fleshed out. And I actually have to increase his role in this draft, because he like is like thrown in like bits and pieces throughout the first draft, and it's really a waste because he has a lot to offer. I think he's one of the most interesting characters in the story. There's someone else kind of tops that who's not Sarah, but we will get to him later. All you need to know is it's Sarah, Ruben, Lars. Those are the main three players, the three most important players, and the story kind of follows Sarah, who has this internal power as well as being a witch in the society of kind of the unknown, knowing the unknown, touching people, allows her to see their memories, hear their thoughts, all that kind of stuff. She can kind of make herself like imperceptible to the human eye when it's dark out, kind of getting into that mystery space. But it does come with drawbacks, and every person in their world has their own additional innate ability that was kind of given to them by the gods long ago. So it's fun to kind of play with those fantasy elements. And it was actually like a worry of mine that I wouldn't be able to work in a lot of these fantasy elements because I'm going very hard with the political social commentary in this story. There's, I would say, one of the main conflicts in the story is like the class division, and not even just wealth, because in the story we have witches, as I mentioned, but we also have fairies, and fairies actually come from witches. They undergo this transformation that happens randomly. You don't know who it's going to happen to, but there's some predictors. And because of all of that, you can kind of see how society can stratify. And I really like that concept. I really like the idea. And I'm hoping, because I'm trying to get this traditionally published, I'm hoping that it's also like a concept that is marketable. Like this thing that is, there are obviously fantasy elements that kind of have to be when there's a story regarding fairies and everything, but it's not like MacGuffin heavy. That's pretty much what the book is about. I can't say too much more. Maybe I will kind of sprinkle in things as I make more videos, and that'll be more interesting. I don't want to give it all away right now. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to write. I've been writing it for 3 years. It's not my first book, but I'm hoping to use this to make myself more accountable in my writing, because I write very slowly, which has always been really a source of conflict for me. I get very distracted and everything. Kind of hard, and I'm in school, so especially I'm a senior now in college, so job applications, graduation, all of that is happening, and I'm taking a lot of hard classes this semester, so I'm hoping this is not going to happen, but I really want to finish draft 2, editing draft 2 before October. Well, not October, because it's like September 16th, but before November at least, because I want to do NaNoWriMo. I have multiple projects on the back burner that I want to start drafting, but I haven't prepped for them, so I'm thinking October's still going to be Preptober, but I'm also going to be trying to get this draft done the way that I have set up my kind of draft 2 process, and that I have a binder filled with my entire draft 1 that I went through with red pen. Anything that was related to world building, plot, those like major elements, I said, let me write it down. And so now I'm going through it, and I usually do a pass, one pass, literally just going through each page and of the chapter. Anything that's marked with red pen, comments or whatever, I address that, and then once I'm finished with the chapter going through like that, I start from the beginning of the chapter again, and then just use my own eye to kind of set out things, do light line editing, but I'm really not trying to focus on that because obviously things will change as I continue to fix my drafts, but mainly just like big world building elements, plot elements. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I found I'd also make this kind of like a video thing where I kind of give my thoughts on a question or some kind of writer community thing. I don't know, I thought I'd weigh in as someone who's been writing for a while. Basically, the format of this was supposed to be, I go on the subreddit r/writing, or one of the writing, reading subreddits, and kind of taking one of the more popular questions of the week, one of the more popular posts of the week, and kind of riffing off that, just to kind of like open up discussion, because I really like the discussions we have on authortube. I think people like Chris and Kate Kavanaugh do really great discussion videos, and also Lindy Jung, who I just recently discovered. They all do really great videos where they also incorporate like talks about the writing community, books, publishing, all that kind of thing. So just looking at the top of the week on r/writing, there were some good questions, but I thought I might start with a question that I feel most confident in talking about. How do I find my characters? And this is not me like advising, being like, oh, this is how you do it. I just wanted to kind of give my experience, because I think it's really interesting to see how different people do their character finding journey. The post was written because the person's like trying to find personalities of characters in order to write out like interactions in close detail. That's what they say, and they're asking how to go about it. I would say the most important thing about character personalities, finding who your character is to kind of think about the story you want to tell, because the plot and the character are intertwined, but also to just think about, at least what I do is I think about who I want to see portrayed in whatever shape this story takes, basically. So I'm currently plotting 2 new novels. One's like more of a contemporary thing. It has like a slight fantastical element to it, but I really want it to be as contemporary as possible. Just like regular old fiction. In an ideal world it would be literary, but you know, who's to actually say. And the other one is straight fantasy. It's actually technically a prequel to Snipped. It takes place long in the past. Complete new set of characters, not even related to the Snipped characters. So the fantasy story, I won't give like a project title because I'll probably go into them in more detail later. The fantasy story is kind of a revamp of a different story that I had started writing back in high school, and so I already knew who the main character was. I just had to tweak her a little bit, made her a bit more morally ambiguous, but there are 3 other main characters in that story, all POV characters, and for them I actually wanted to work around more of a central theme, and so, or a central happening, and I wanted them to have different vantage points around this one central phenomenon. So they're all going to be distinct people by design, hopefully to make the story interesting. In terms of Sarah, I actually don't remember how I crafted her character. She's gone through multiple iterations, but she's always had this, you know, affinity of sorts for mystery. So I always conceived of her as a very curious person, someone who's nosy and she knows it. She tries not to, like, you know, bother people with it, but she's gonna find things out. Very loyal, fiercely loyal. Has kind of a bond with her twin brother, but not too much of, like, you know, the kind of strange twin bonds that like a lot of entertainment likes to portray. Just because I've been around many twins and triplets throughout my life, actually strange, like multiple in my family, classes, like close friends, everything, like, so I know that their bonds can run the gamut from like being like attached at the hip to being like they hardly even talk, like not even like brother and sister, they barely talk. So because they were raised by a single mom, they have their family unit, they don't know their mom's relatives and everything. So using those kind of family dynamics also creates Sarah's personality of being loyal, being like, two people in the world matter to me, everyone else can kind of move on to the side. Those kinds of things. So I think it kind of takes lots of different factors. You can kind of make a list of the factors, like the story plot that you already had conceived, or even just elements that you were thinking of if you're a pantser, themes that you're trying to explore. If it's a fantasy story or sci-fi, like what kind of powers or like gadgets are going to be involved, and how might that affect the personality. Family, friends, do you know, are they a only child, are they one of like 10 siblings, those kind of things. So I think that's how I would go about finding a character. I mean, that's how I did. I don't know what you guys think. I'm saying like you guys, but I don't know how many people watch this video, so I'm gonna be confident in myself, because I don't know, I like to discover new authortubers. Hopefully anyone who's watching this video also does. Yeah, I'm gonna head back to editing for as long as I feel like. Hopefully I can get some reading in before bed. I'm reading multiple different books at this time. I should really stick to one, but I'm trying to read The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. Maybe I'll put it up here. I'm also trying to reread Avatar, because I've read it before, like in high school, and I didn't like it, and I didn't finish the series. And Carrie Can Read, a really great booktuber, like did this whole series of explaining videos, like, you know, the ones with the pin board and the, you know, points to everyone. She did it so well that I was like, you know, I kind of need this like drama book. Like, Avatar for me right now is like reality TV, and I found this really great audiobook on YouTube that's like narrated by this person who does like these sound effects and visuals and everything. It's a really great experience. So that's what I'm using to read it, in addition to getting the ebook. And I've discovered a few more books that I'm trying to just keep to the side, so I don't get distracted. But those are the two main ones that I'm reading at the moment. So we'll see which one I use to kind of help myself calm down from the day. But that's pretty much it.